For most of human history, power meant sweat. Men strained, animals toiled, and the world moved slowly. Wind filled sails, water turned wheels, and muscles pulled carts. But beneath all of that, a dream simmered, a dream to create power from within, to make fire itself do the hard work. And so, in the 17th century, a Dutchman named Christiaan Huygens did something strange. He took gunpowder, the force of destruction, and imagined it could be harnessed to create motion. He built a primitive engine, a vertical cylinder with a piston inside. An explosion would force the piston upward, then gravity would drag it back down. Crude, inefficient, unrepeatable, but revolutionary. It didn't catch on, not yet. The world wasn't ready. The science, the materials, the engineering, all too raw. But the idea refused to die. Over the next century, a strange collection of thinkers, chemists, clergymen, and engineers toyed with versions of engines that burned gas to produce power. Some built turbines, some experimented with volatile fuels, but none cracked the real puzzle: how to control combustion, how to repeat it rhythmically and efficiently. But for nearly a century, that seed lay dormant. Why? Because the world became obsessed with steam. As steam power surged ahead with Thomas Newcomen and later James Watt, the concept of internal combustion simmered quietly in the minds of fringe inventors. In 1791, John Barber, an English engineer, patented a gas turbine engine, far ahead of his time. Though it never worked, it hinted at future possibilities: compressing air, mixing it with fuel, igniting it, and channeling the force. In 1794, Thomas Mead built a theoretical gas engine using air and hydrogen. It may never have run, but it included many of the elements modern engines use: fuel, ignition, expansion, exhaust. Then came a Frenchman named Philippe Le Bon. In 1801, he patented a design for an engine powered by illuminating gas, using spark ignition and valves to control intake and exhaust. It was a masterstroke on paper, and many historians consider it one of the most direct ancestors of modern engines. But Le Bon never saw his dream realized. In 1804, just as he prepared to demonstrate a prototype, he was murdered under mysterious circumstances. His vision was buried with him. Still, the embers remained hot. Then came 1807. Along the river Saône in France, two brothers, Nicephore and Claude Niepce, tested a strange contraption aboard a boat. They called it the pyreolophore. Powered by a cocktail of coal dust, moss and resin, it managed to move the vessel, briefly. A flicker of promise, but once again the flame faded. Their invention was too complex, too unstable. Still, progress was now unstoppable. In 1860, a Belgian-born engineer named Etienne Lenoir introduced something different. His engine ran on coal gas and used an electric spark to ignite the mixture. It worked. It ran. In fact, it even powered a vehicle over a distance of 18 kilometers, a staggering achievement. But the engine was noisy, weak and inefficient. It didn't compress the fuel-air mixture, so it wasted energy. It was a start, but only that. And yet Lenoir's engine caught the world's imagination. Over 400 of them were built, not just machines now, but tools of commerce, installed in printing presses, pump stations and small workshops. Lenoir had done something no one before him had managed. He had sold the idea. The engine was no longer a curiosity, it had become a product. But it was still imperfect. It consumed vast amounts of fuel, overheated quickly, and barely generated enough power to justify its size. And perhaps most damning of all, it didn't evolve. And that's when a German bookkeeper named Nikolaus Otto entered the scene. Otto wasn't an engineer, he was a traveling salesman, fascinated by Lenoir's noisy invention. In 1861, he tried building his own engine using liquid fuel, alcohol. It failed, but Otto was relentless. He experimented for years, partnering with an engineer named Eugène Langen. Otto had seen the Lenoir engine at work. He was impressed, but dissatisfied. The inefficiency gnawed at him. He reasoned that compressing the fuel-air mixture before ignition would deliver a more powerful explosion and thus a more efficient engine. But there was a problem. Compressing the mixture made it highly unstable, prone to exploding too early or unpredictably, a phenomenon known as pre-ignition or knocking. Otto wasn't the only one who noticed this. Engineers across Europe were struggling with the same issue. In the late 1800s, the concept of the four-stroke cycle emerged as a pivotal advancement in engine technology. This cycle, which includes intake, compression, power and exhaust, became the foundation for modern internal combustion engines. It was Nikolaus Otto who made a significant breakthrough by successfully implementing this cycle into a working engine. His ingenuity and perseverance transformed theoretical concepts into practical reality, paving the way for the engines we rely on today. Then, in 1862, a French engineer named Alphonse Beau de Rochas quietly published a pamphlet. It outlined a theoretical cycle of 4 strokes: intake, compression, power, exhaust, and explained that compressing the mixture would be far more efficient if done correctly. But Beau de Rochas never built a working engine. His idea was brilliant, but abstract. It sat on paper, waiting. Otto, meanwhile, kept tinkering. After an early failure trying to compress the mixture, he abandoned that idea temporarily. He partnered with Etienne Lenoir, and together they built a vertical atmospheric engine that didn't compress the fuel but worked more efficiently than Lenoir's design. It even won a gold medal at the 1867 Paris World Fair. This engine ran on coal gas and had a free piston that shot upward under combustion and then fell by gravity, turning a crank. It was tall, slow and clunky, but it used half the fuel of Lenoir's engine. For a few years, Otto and Langen enjoyed success with this model, installing them in workshops across Germany, but Otto couldn't let go of the dream, the compressed charge. In secret, he resumed his experiments. Between 1872 and 1876, Otto worked obsessively to tame the fire inside the cylinder. He hired young engineers, including Franz Rings and Gottlieb Daimler, who would later become giants in their own right. And finally, in 1876, in a small workshop in Cologne, Otto unveiled his 4-stroke compressed charge engine, the first working realization of Beau de Rochas' theory. This wasn't just an engine, it was a symphony of precision. This was the Otto cycle, the beating heart of modern internal combustion. It transformed everything. But what made Otto's engine special wasn't just the cycle. It was the orchestration of parts that allowed it to work so smoothly. The crankshaft, which transformed the up and down motion of pistons into rotary motion, perfect for turning wheels or gears. The camshaft, which controlled the precise timing of the intake and exhaust valves. The carburetor, which mixed fuel and air in just the right ratio for combustion, and magnetos, early ignition systems that produced the spark without a battery, crucial for standalone operation. Each component was an invention in itself, but combined, they created an engine that could be mass-produced, reliable and portable. Otto's engine wasn't loud and brutish like its predecessors. It was measured, rhythmic, almost elegant. And this changed everything. The dawn of a new era was upon us. The world was on the brink of transformation, driven by innovation and relentless human spirit. The internal combustion engine had finally become practical, efficient and reliable. No longer a laboratory oddity or an expensive toy, it could now become the heartbeat of the modern world. By the late 1870s, entrepreneurs and inventors were scrambling to build machines around Otto's design. The world was about to be set in motion, but the story doesn't end here, because Otto had rivals. Men like Daimler and Maybach, working under Otto, had their own ambitions. Carl Benz was quietly developing his own lightweight engine for a vehicle with no horses at all. And across the Atlantic, a man named Henry Ford was watching, planning. The engine was no longer confined to the workshop. It would soon power cars, ships and flying machines. And it would ignite not just fuel, but revolutions. But how do you turn a brilliant invention into a mass-produced machine? How do you make it cheap enough for the common man? Light enough for flight? Tough enough for war? That's where the next part of our story begins, because as Otto basked in the glow of his achievement, the world was already racing ahead. In our next episode, we'll dive into the explosive birth of the automobile engine, the bitter betrayals and rivalries that shaped its evolution, and how a single invention reshaped war, travel, and industry forever. The world was about to change, and it all started with fire in a cylinder.